Here we go, another classic underdog story. We're going to be running the new PSA M110K1 clone versus a real deal Knights Armament SR-25 ECC, which became the M110K1. Now, if you're familiar with these two rifles, you know this rifle is next to unobtainium. When you do find them, they're absurdly expensive. So PSA has done us all a favor and launched an epic new rifle. So if you're curious of how the clone rifle compares to the real deal, then stick around because we're going to take a deep dive in this video into that exact topic. So join me. I'm no military weapons expert, but really quick, what was the M110K1? So you think about global war on terror from say 2010 to about 2015, the M110 20-inch 308 sniper rifle had been around for some time, proven itself effective. It was long and heavy though. So with that, I understand there were certain units or teams out there that wanted the ability to put 308 downrange from a smaller, more manageable package. Similar controls, magazines to what they were used to in their M110s. So that's where the M110K1 came from. It would be this exact rifle that we're holding right here from Knights Armament, painted flat dark earth. So it's a 16-inch 308 battle rifle or DMR type rifle. This specific unit I ordered in early 2013 and received it in early 2015. And my understanding is that delay was due to Knights filling military contracts for this exact rifle. So it's kind of a cool piece of heritage that we have here. And we'll talk about it in just a little bit, but on the clone market or clone world used market, they're extremely valuable and very, very rare. So what is this rifle and what made it so cool? Well, I remember when they launched this ECC or Enhanced Combat Carbine on the civilian side. It had dual ejectors in the bolt, it had ambi controls on the lower, it had the dimpling on the barrel here, which looks really cool, aids with heating, saves weight. It had the new, at the time, URX 3.1 handguard, which was slimmer. It had the Picatinny deletes on the side. It used the new kind of panels and scales. And it had the new suppressor mounting system that used the ball bearings up front. So this is very robust. It's a beautiful mount system for a suppressor. If I remember correctly, the ECC would have been the first model within the Knights lineup to use that style mount. I believe overseas we would have seen a slightly different, one generation older can on it, but ultimately it would be this exact package. The military rifles were flat dark earth, and most of the images that we saw, they were using an LPVO. At the time, it would have been the Leupold CQB SS 1-8 LPVO, which was revolutionary at the time. 1 power, or 1.1 I think it was, with a red dot and the ability to magnify up to 8 power was a game changer. I remember thinking that was the peak setup, and that's ultimately what inspired me to pick this up as my first Knights Armament rifle. So what we have here is an SR-25 ECC from the factory Knights Armament. This represents an M110K1 as it would have been used overseas. So now enter PSA. So as time goes on and more footage of the ECC or K1 shows up from overseas, it becomes a very valuable rifle on the clone market. Now with that Knights Armament, they're always innovating, and with that they discontinue older products. So the ECC in particular was discontinued. The URX 3.1 rail discontinued, making them nearly impossible to find nowadays on the used market. And when you find them, they're crazy expensive. Full rifles are listed for $15,000, $18,000. Uppers for $12,000. Rails, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000. It's flat out nuts what that unit would bring on the used market. And in this video, you're gonna see how it performs. So you gotta let me know in the comments below what you think about the performance of this rifle for the perceived value on the used market. I cannot wait to hear from you on that one. I have my own opinion, and I'll tell you at the end. As things become as valuable as they are on the used market and hard to find, PSA saw the opportunity, they stepped up, and they're bringing the people what they want in this rifle. This is gonna be their Saber 10 M110K1 clone. So as you can see, flat dark earth rifle, 16-inch 308. It has their rail on it, which is almost identical to the Knights. It's a beautiful kind of replica or a clone of the 3.1. It's got the ambi controls. And in this case, I've installed my Knights suppressor on it. I wanted to make it as apples to apples as possible. Knights has a 5/8 by 24 mount, and we have a newer style. This is the CRS PRG CQB suppressor, so it's the small 308 can. It is vented. Hey, really quick, while we're on the topic of suppressors, let me cut in here and just give a shout out to one of the newest channel supporters, being Silencer Shop. So Silencer Shop has come on board with the channel to basically be my sponsor of all of my NFA activities. So that would be suppressor transfers, SBR, Form 1s, etc. Really excited about that for a couple of reasons. Number one, I've been a customer of Silencer Shop for a long time now. And the really cool thing about Silencer Shop is their online process, their profile, and their single shot trust. So my profile is saved through the Silencer Shop system. So they got my fingerprints, my pictures, all of my questions answered. When this unit comes in, your shop is going to move it into inventory, they can contact you and you can go through the form submission process without even being there. So for example, the really cool thing about this one, using the Silencer Shop process, I was on the road traveling for work. I was able to submit my paperwork on this while being on the road. And then by the time I got home later that week, because approval times are crazy fast right now, this thing was already approved. So I was able to get home from my work trip, forms were already submitted, I had my approval, swung by the gun shop, picked it up, and here we are running it. So just want to give a shout out to Silencer Shop, really appreciate their support. And it's really awesome to be able to represent something like Silencer Shop where you've already done a ton of business with them and you believe in their product. So thank you to Silencer Shop. There's no better time than right now to get into NFA, and Silencer Shop is making it easier than ever. The really cool thing about this rifle, what you're going to see here is a rifle that looks the part for about $1,500. So 1/10 of the cost of the Knights, you can get into this PSA. And when things are priced that well, you always have to ask yourself, how does it perform? So in this video, we're going to run them side by side, and you're going to see the performance of this PSA M110K1 versus the actual SR-25 ECC. We're going to shoot groups at the 100-yard line, and then we're going to stretch out and shoot steel from about 500 yards out to 1,000. And then we're going to wrap up here with a summary of my thoughts running both rifles side by side. I'll go ahead and tell you right now, this rifle is a performer, and there are a number of updates in this above and beyond what the actual ECC is. We'll talk about them, but so far, I'll go into the shooting footage by letting you know I'm very impressed with this rifle. Now with that, I do want to mention how I got this rifle. So PSA did send me this rifle free of charge. Beyond that, there are no expectations. I told them what I was going to do with the rifle. I was going to shoot it side by side with my actual ECC, and boom, it showed up. So what you're going to see in this video is a rifle provided by PSA, no expectations on their part, and you're going to see the performance. It's going to be on video, groups at 100, downrange steel, there's going to be a scope camera, etc. So if you like the sounds of it, stick around. From here, I got to ask for your help to grow this channel. It's super simple, and it's through subscribing. If you like this kind of content, hit that subscribe button and let me know you want to see more footage or content just like this. It's very motivating, and it signals to the industry that you value my content. Now from here, really quick, how do I have each rifle set up? So we'll start with the PSA. So factory PSA M110K1. This is their Saber 10 lineup. It's going to have their Saber Claw trigger in it, which, spoiler alert, is very nice. It's got their ambi lower, so there's a bolt release on the right-hand side, just like the Knights. And going to have their rail on it here, which is a copy of the URX 3.1. The coolest thing about this, it's got M-LOK on the bottom, so I can actually put an ARCA plate on it. So kudos to PSA for the M-LOK on the bottom of the rail. Amazing update. The other thing you're going to see on this rifle is the rifle speed adjustable gas block, which is cool. I could take it or leave it though. It is worth noting I've got several hundred rounds on this rifle now, and this did freeze up. I had to use some pliers to bust it loose. And then the little pin in there was wedged in with carbon, so I had to get oil and then knock it out. It is working now, but it did freeze up. So my opinion, probably set it and forget it. Optics package on this, I decided to go with the Griffin Armament 1-10 second focal plane LPVO. So my theme on this rifle, aside from the suppressor, is very much how I feel like many of you might set this up. Affordable LPVO, 10 power, is great for a 308. In the Griffin mount, so this is going to be the Griffin single piece mount for their LPVO. And then I opted to run the Fire 4000 weapon mounted laser rangefinder from Tango Inno. So this is what I'm going to be using for ranging and ballistic solution on this rifle. MDT bipod, which we're going to be running, but that's the rifle. This is a 1 in 10 inch twist rifle. So in my opinion, 1 in twist to me is more valuable in a 308 than the older 1 in 11 1/4. So that is going to be the PSA rifle that we're shooting. Now the Knights I'm going to be running is the factory SR-25 ECC. It's got a Geisley SDE 2-stage trigger in it. So it's a flat 2-stage trigger, very crisp break. For an optics package up top, we're going to have the EOTech Voodoo. So this is provided by Brownells. Got to give a huge shout out to Brownells for their support of the channel. So if you want to support me and support Brownells, it's by using code Mullets on your next purchase through Brownells. That's going to give you a 10% discount off of an order over 150 bucks, and a small kickback goes to me. So thank you to Brownells for providing the optic to allow me to go apples to apples on these two rifles with a 10 power LPVO. This is going to be a more higher cost LPVO. This thing I think is coming in about 2,000 bucks plus or minus a bit. And it's going to be in the Night Force 34mm mount. And on this unit, I'm going to be using the Maztec X4 weapon mounted laser rangefinder. Suppressor on this one is going to be the older Knights CRS suppressor. So at the time they offered the CRS, which was the kind of carbine suppressor. This is welded, not vented, old school, no longer available. We'll set up here. This is going to be a Vortex red dot mounted to the side of my Night Force mount. So you think about target acquisition, so you want to get on target downrange. In this case, I'm running the Scope Mate camera, so the full ocular here rotates on this. So I have to leave this on 10 power while I film. Very zoomed in with an LPVO, smaller field of view. So this setup, I zero this red dot at 100 yards to the reticle. The red dot's going to stay zeroed at 100 yards, but now I can use the red dot with my left eye actually to find my target downrange and then drop into the LPVO. Boom, I'm magnified on target. So this setup is from Bald Knobber Armament, and it mounts into your Night Force mount, and then you put on your RMR footprint optic. So this is actually a Delta Point Pro footprint, but I use an adapter plate to put it on there. So really, really cool setup. It is slick how you open your left eye for the red dot, boom, right eye for the LPVO. You could also shoot this if you needed to up close, but this is my first range trip out with it. Very slick setup there from Bald Knobber Armament. Ammo we're going to be shooting through the video is going to be my hand loads using the 175 SMK. So shout out to Sierra for their support of my channel. They've been a long-time supporter, and that 175 SMK is a beautiful bullet. Also, very much in line with, say, M118 LR ammo, which you might find running through these rifles in service. Finally, if you want to learn more about any of these products, make sure you're using my campsite bio to do that, as it'll help you and it also will help me. So from here, let's start shooting and then we'll wrap up. I know we're all dying to see that 100-yard performance, so here we go. Now both rifles started out with a clean bore and they were not zeroed. So off camera, I shot on the bottom paper here to get each rifle zeroed and get about 9 rounds through each bore before I fired the 10-round groups shown here. So first up, I fired 10 rounds for the Knights Armament SR-25 ECC here on the right dot. And you can see those 10 rounds went into this group. It's nice and round, no flyers, 1.7 MOA. And in my experience, that's pretty normal for a 175 SMK. Velocity performance on those hand loads, average speed of 25-10, extreme spread of 32, and an SD of 9.6. So velocity wise, it's going to be pretty decent to be able to push that out to distance. That's a little bit fast for a 16-inch barrel, but it is what it is. So happy with the SD and the extreme spread and the group. Nice and zeroed up. So from here I went ahead and zeroed out the turrets on the EOTech, as well as zeroed out the Maztec. So used the visible laser reflected off of the license plate here. Got that zeroed so I could just point at my targets in range, and then also input this information into the Maztec ballistic solver. So it uses applied ballistics. All I have to do is plug in the velocity, and then it pulls in that custom profile that we'll use to shoot out to distance. You can also lock in the environmentals on that Maztec for your zeroing for it to use to calculate your distance. Then I fired 10 rounds on the Palmetto State Armory on the left-hand dot here. So as you can see, overall, the group is decent. So we have 9 rounds, nice and tight, with 1 round that flew high. So the high flyer was actually my first round. It felt like a good shot. The next 9 stacked in right here. So overall, the group is 2.6 MOA, which is larger than the Knights. If you remove the first round, which flew high, and look at the 9 that stacked together, it's 1.6 MOA, very much in line with the Knights Armament. Now with regards to the flyer, to me, this felt like a good shot. And I tell you what, I've got a couple hundred rounds on this rifle now, and I'm seeing this as kind of a trend. Occasionally I get these random flyers that happen, and I can't necessarily explain why. So we had one here high at 100 yards. When I shot this rifle in the hunter match there at Day Mountain Ranch, I remember one shot at about 1,050 yards. It landed like 3 mils low. Felt like a good shot, so it's just a low flyer. So overall, the accuracy seems promising. We'll be able to shoot this out to distance, no problem. But I do want to note that flyer felt good, and I do feel like I am seeing kind of a trend on this rifle. Now I've shot multiple 5-round groups of this exact same load, and they seem to be in about the 1.5 MOA range. So something like this is very normal with the occasional flyer. Velocity performance on the exact same load, average speed of 2487, so a little bit slower than the Knights. Extreme spread of 41 and an SD of 13, so a little bit larger spread than the Knights. But ultimately, this will still be very usable out to distance. From here, I did move my point of impact up, I believe 2/10, and left maybe 3/10, and then zeroed out the turrets there on that Griffin optic. Also, I zeroed out the Fire 4000 laser rangefinder so that I could just also point this rifle at the target down range. And then I updated AB Quantum, the ballistic solver for the Fire 4000. With this velocity information, I'm using the same custom curve so that my drop out to distance should be true. Now with that, there's a look at our performance. Overall, both rifles are performing about as I would expect. These are not sniper rifles. These are not true precision rifles. These are battle rifles, maybe with a DMR type capability, and as you're going to see out of the distance, this will perform just fine on practical size torso type targets. With that, let's push out and shoot some distance. Let's run some steel with the PSA M110K1. So I've set up 2 targets out there. There's a 2/3 IPSC on the right and a full-size IPSC on the left. So we'll go ahead and engage our first array of targets here. So let's just zoom in a bit. Let me get on it and arrange that. Go, feel the haptic feedback. I got to hold up 2.8. I did update this for a 4-mile-an-hour wind from the 2 o'clock, which would be a 1/4 mil right. So given this is second focal plane, I need to dial all the way up to be able to hold. So here we go, 2.8 up, 1/4 right. Let's just start on the full size, huh? Pack. Pack. Let's try the 2/3 a little bit high there in the chest. Pack. Pack. No call. Pack. Oh, I held high on that one. Packed. So there you have it. Elevation seemed pretty good aside from me making the wrong hold a couple times in the reticle. This is the second time I've done this course of fire. The first time I forgot to turn on all of my cameras. So let's try it again. We'll have the cameras on. With that, we'll go ahead and load up. Now, on this EOTech Voodoo, the full ocular rotates, so I have to leave it at 10 power for the scope camera, but super simple to get on target. I'm going to use my red dot here with my left eye. So this is a bald knobber mount Vortex red dot. I just point at the target. There we are. And now let me get on it in the scope. 440 yards calls for 2.7 mils of elevation. It's almost dead calm. So let's put some rounds. Ooh, bad shot on my part. Pack. Pack. Off the right edge. Pack. 2/3. Pack. The left edge. Pack. Off the left edge. Impact. So there we are, 440 yards. Probably not the best display of marksmanship there, but we did make our impacts when I had a steady position. So let's keep pushing further. Here we go, off of my favorite rocks. We're back probably in the ballpark of about 650 yards. So we'll go ahead and load up here. And we'll get on the target. We'll just point at the plate there, and okay, so that gives me 663, which is 5.5 up and right 0.4. Again, we'll zoom in, 5.5 and right 0.4. Let's just start on the full size. Okay, just off that upper left shoulder. Let's do one more at the exact same spot. Okay, impact a little left on the plate. Left edge, let's try the 2/3. Pack. Left edge. Pack. Pack. Back to the full size. Pack. 2/3. Pack. Impact. So there's a run at 650, a full size IPSC and a 2/3, no problem. This should be about 660, so we'll go ahead and load up here. And again, I'm going to use my left eye with the red dot to get on the plate, which there we are. Now I drop into the scope and arrange it. 654 yards, just calling 5.4 mils. And then right, 0.2. Impact. 2/3. The left edge. Tap. Tap. This off the right edge. Edge. All right, go to the full size. Tap. And that one dropped away low. So, handful of impacts out there. I feel like our hit percent was actually higher with the PSA. Alrighty, I've set up kind of a practical position here off of the tripod. Let's just take a look out there at our targets. So we'll point our, let me zoom in. Let's go all the way to 10 power. So 0, 842 yards is calling for 8.3 up and right 0.5. So I'm gonna go ahead and dial that. So the clicks in this Griffin optic are very close together. I think it should be something like that. So now we'll just hold dead on and favor right 0.5. Impact. Pack. Pack. Try the 2/3. Impact. Pack. Pack. So I think we just went 10 for 10 at 840 with the PSA K1. That is super fun. Let's go ahead and engage some steel out there, see what we can come up with. So again, I'll use my left eye to point at the targets. There we are. We'll drop down in and we're on them. Now, as you can tell, I've swapped tripods. This is my Ultradyne tripod, and I'm running it because it has a head that will attach to Arca or Picatinny. So it hooks into this ECC really nice. Point at our target here. And 845 yards is calling for 8.3, so we'll dial that on. There we go. It's calling for right 0.2. Impact. That was low left. Off the right. Off the left. Off the right. No call. Pat. May come up 2/10. Pat. Let's try one on the 2/3. Off the right. Man, that was a rough run. That was a pretty low hit percent. This is the yardage where we hit 100% with the PSA. Let's try her back at a little over 1,000. What do you say we push the PSA past 1,000 yards? So we'll go ahead and get on that and range it. 1032. 1030 calls for 11.8, which we'll dial up. So it's pretty cool. In this Griffin scope, you can actually get 14 revs, or 14 mils in one rev. So we're still in the first rev. That's why the clicks are so close. And it's calling for right 0.6. Oh gosh. We need a bit more. 1.8. Impact. Left off the right edge. That might have been a T-post. Let me come up 1/10. Pat. Pat. The left edge. Pat. Left edge. No call. So there we are at 10:44. I believe we had 4 good impacts out there. A little bit of wind, a little more wind than I expected, but really the shots were all pretty consistent right there around the torso. Here we go in our final position with the Knights. Let's see if we can connect here. A little bit over 1,000 yards. We'll point at the target and I'll range it. 10:23 calls for 11.7, which I'll dial on. There's 10, 11. There we go. And it's calling for right. 0.25. Okay, right where I aimed. Left edge. Pat. The right edge. Left edge. Go straight up. And pat. Just a little left. Impact. Impact. So I believe that was also 4 impacts, the same as the PSA. With that, let's go ahead and wrap up. There it is, a side-by-side comparison of the Knights Armament SR-25 ECC or M110K1 to the new PSA M110K1 clone. You gotta let me know in the comments, what did you think? Remember, this rifle is roughly valued at about $15,000, and this one is brand new for $1,500. So let me know what you thought about the performance of these 2 rifles side by side, especially when you factor in the price point and the fact that this unit is actually available now, versus this one you have to hunt and sort to find those parts. While you're doing that, let me talk about my experience. So at the 100-yard line, we shot 10-round groups with each rifle. What we saw at the 100-yard line was an advantage to the Knights Armament. So it put 10 rounds into a 1.7 MOA group. Nice and round, no flyers. And in my experience, that is what's normal for this rifle. So I purchased this rifle intending to use it as kind of a precision rifle, and I found that's not what it is. On a good day, it's a 1.5 MOA rifle. So what we saw there at 1.7, very normal for this rifle. The PSA put 10 rounds into a group that was 2.6 or 2.5 MOA. That was due to the first round, which flew high. The last 9 went into 1.6 MOA. So 100-yard accuracy, yeah, advantage goes to the Knights, but this rifle definitely held its own. That first round felt good to me. I'm not sure why it was a flyer. It's worth noting, now that I've had this rifle in a couple 100 rounds, I've shot multiple 5-round groups and a couple of 10-round groups. And what I find is, I do have the occasional flyer, the occasional round that pops out of the group, even though it feels good. I'm not sure why. That's been with 2 different suppressors. Previously, I had the Griffin Dual Lock 7 Gen 2 on it. Same thing happened there. So I need more time to understand what's causing those random flyers, but 9 rounds went into a beautiful group, 1.6 MOA, which is actually tighter than this rifle. So from an accuracy perspective, at the 100-yard line, in my opinion, they're very comparable. I was actually shocked when I ran them side by side and saw that. From there, we moved out and shot steel. We started at like the 475 or 450 yard mark, and the PSA hammered. The Knights Armament, I kind of struggled to hit. Yeah, the first round, definitely that was my fault. Definitely pulled that one, and I felt it when it went off. But there were some misses in there with the Knights that I'm not sure why I missed. We pushed out and engaged the same set of targets, a 2/3 IPSC and a full size at 650 yards. And again, we had more hits with the PSA. The Knights dropped some rounds to me that felt good, but I didn't connect with them. There's some windage error in there, but it wasn't a crazy windy day. So we're trending through 650 yards with a higher hit percent with the PSA. We got to 850 yards, and I was actually shocked with the performance. So the PSA was a 100% hit rate at 850 yards. The full size IPSC, the 2/3 IPSC off of a tripod, this thing hammered. The Knights, we dropped multiple rounds. I think I only had 2 impacts at 850 yards with the Knights off of the tripod, same position, same targets, same day. I really don't have a great explanation for that. It shot a better group at 100 yards, but I struggled to hit impacts on steel at 850. And then we pushed out and wrapped up at 1,000 yards, or a little over 1,000. And there we saw them equal. Both of them had 4 rounds out of 10 on a full-size IPSC at 1,000 yards. With a 16-inch gas gun, to me, that's fine. I'd like to have a higher hit percent, but ultimately, yeah, we could put rounds on a torso at 1,000 yards. Realistically, I think these rifles, especially with an LPVO like this, are probably 600 to 800 yard guns. And through that 600 to 800 yard range, the PSA hammered. The Knights, straight up, I was a little bit disappointed in how it shot. So with that, I actually have a new barrel on order for that rifle. I'm gonna get a stainless barrel from KAC Precision. I'm actually gonna spin it up as a 1-in-8 twist barrel. I really like that 1-in-8 twist from what I'm seeing. So the barrel on that thing is gonna get replaced. I am not that happy with how it shoots, and I wanna make it shoot better. So with that, performance-wise, factory barrel versus factory barrel, in my opinion, the PSA had a higher hit percent, even though it shot a worse group at the 100-yard line. So accuracy potential, it is there. The PSA is a shooter. Now from here, let's talk about pros and cons of the PSA rifle and what I've noticed with it so far compared to the Knights. Reliability has been there. I do not recall a single malfunction with this rifle after I got the gas dialed in. So accuracy is acceptable. Reliability for me has been 100%. I immediately out of the box swapped over to P-Mags. It came with a metal mag, haven't even tried it given my prior experience. But reliability has been there. The optic on this I feel like fits this perfectly. So the second focal plane took me a little bit of getting used to just because I'm so used to first focal plane optics. But the reticle on this was very fine, and I do believe this optic pairs well with this rifle, and that was part of the reason I was able to make the impacts that I was. That fine reticle was really nice to use at distance. So shout out to Griffin Armament for a very affordable, very high performance of 1-to-10 optic. Now the other things about this rifle, it looks great. Obviously I love the way it looks. The finish seems to be holding up. There's some scuffing here, but overall the finish is holding up well. The trigger on this thing is very, very impressive for the price point. It is a very, I would say, fairly light trigger with a very nice break. It's not super crisp. There's a little bit of mush there. But given what this rifle is and the intended use of it with an LPVO, you know, in a DMR style roll, it's a very nice trigger. It's got this ambidextrous right hand bolt release, which is very easy to use, almost identical to the Knights. But to me, that's a pro. Now, things on the rifle that I've noticed kind of as a con. The first one's gonna be the gas block. So the rifle speed, that's great. It's very nice to be able to adjust that. But for me, I'm gonna put a can on it and leave it. So I'm not gonna be changing my gas. In my experience where the pin in this gas block stuck and I had to hammer it out, actually, if you spin this off, it actually unthreads and then you can pull it out. To me, that was kind of a bummer. So I thought adjustable gas block, especially one that's this easy to adjust, would be really cool. But I found it seized up after only a couple hundred rounds. I forgot to mention, I really like this M-lock slots on the bottom to allow me to put the ARCA plate on. That's an advantage over the older rifle. So in summary, you know, the negatives to this rifle are fairly minimal. It's the gas block, it's the random flyers that I'm seeing in the groups. I need more time on the rifle to see what that's about. But for what it is, it performed very, very well, especially when you think about it being 1/10 roughly the perceived value of the ECC. And it's available now. It is an absolute steal. So overall, I'm gonna rate this rifle as a ton of fun. You know, yes, PSA sent me this rifle, but I would spend my own money on this rifle right now and say I was happy with it. The ECC, especially when you factor in the perceived value of it, I'm not that impressed with the performance of that rifle. Now, yes, that rifle has several thousand rounds on it, maybe 5,000 to 7,000 rounds. So she's seen some use through the years. This one has maybe 300 to 400 rounds. So keep that in mind. But ultimately, this is a beautiful clone of the real deal. And in my opinion, at $1,500, or I think it's actually $1,400, it's an absolute steal, and it would be money well spent. PSA did a great job, and I appreciate the work that they're doing to bring rifles like this to us. So with that, let me know what you thought. I had a ton of fun making this. I hope you enjoyed watching it. If you enjoyed this video and you're still here, do me a solid and help me grow the channel. That's liking the video, commenting. I'd love to engage with each of you down below. Most impactful is subscribe so that you're in line for my next video drop. Thanks for watching.